Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we did this. I've got the TV instead of yes. Okay, I can't find the TV there.
The Apple TV?
Yeah.
Just reset it. And then whilst I'm doing that, can you check the audio? Yeah, cool. That's better, Stephen. Thank you. And the audio from me. It's B1, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks for waiting. I won't be long. So I'm halfway through. It will in a second. I just need to get the sound connected before. That's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for putting up with technology. Let us motivate ourselves to study together. If you're new to rituals, this little ritual is part of a lineage that goes all the way back to the Buddha. And it's basically to remind us that we have the opportunity in the next 2 hours to have a conception of ourselves that's different to normal and aspire towards that. And for me, it's so I don't make up stuff. Monday. That's nice. Familiar faces. Hi, welcome home. The last formal class. Next week is just review and making sense of what didn't make sense. That's why it makes sense. Of course. I figured I could do it the last class. So, of course, we invite ourselves at the beginning of every one of these classes to consider the reason for taking any bit of study like this at all. Is it possible, really possible, to transform our experience of life, the universe, the sense of being? Is it possible to transcend suffering, brokenness, and the rest? Is nirvana possible? Is enlightenment possible? And if it is, then this text, the Diamond Cutter Sutra, is saying to us, it's only possible because it's not possible the way you thought it was possible. That's why it's possible. And what that means is there's something in your mind that can make it possible. There's never going to be a possible out there separate from you shifting something inside. And so we've been tricked every class to pretend that there is a perfect world by making this offering mandala prayer. And the conception that we have, the moment we can conceive even for a millisecond of a universe where beings no longer experience the broken, and in its place have a conception that everyone can permanently be free from that, and in its place experience bliss and love. If you can conceive of that for just a millisecond in your mind, and then give it away as quickly as possible to every creature you can imagine, particularly the enlightened ones, just that play in your mind begins to plant the courses for you to experience the world that way. So the first thing we do is make a mandala offering with these funny hands things that don't really mean anything if you don't know what it means. In other words, we create the meaning, and in creating the meaning, we create the reality. And so this represents the universe, the center of the universe, now mirroring on the four continents, four corners of the universe. So we imagine, what if every being just like me was completely free of whatever afflicts them? And then just imagine that and give it away. So,
Sashi
Mukir Drishir Metatram Viranishir Indem Pati Sangha Shindu Nitevati Dragunanda Shimashipasho Idam Guru Ratamandalakam Niyatayami
Sangha
Dhiram Soki Shokamba Dhanshu Vardu Dakti Apsuchi Daki Shinyen Gipesananti Drola Benchir Sanghe Parsho
Sangha
Dhiram Soki Choknamha Janshu Vardu Dakti Apsuchi Daki Shinyen Gipesananti Drola Benchir Sanghe Dhiram Soki Choknamha Janshu Vardu Dakti Apsuchi Daki Shinyen Gipesananti Drola Benchir Sanghe Parsho
Let's get started with the end. And we can start by reviewing what we did last week. Thank you very much for naming that way. And then Supriya and Emmett, sort of, just get even numbers. Yeah. And then Stephen, he's my partner. Evan is my best friend from high school. Freud would have a field day. Yeah. Damn it. Evan and Stephen, and let's go from Zoe that way. Except I need Stephen here, Mink that corner, Redder and Emmett that corner, and Supriya and Rachel this corner. Yeah. So the point here is get to know each other, get your minds back on the Diamond Cutter Sutra and where we're up to, get to know each other's names, go through the quiz as an excuse to say what the hell we're doing together, and just take 10-15 minutes to complete these. And Zoe, I have, these are homeworks for anyone that wants to do today's homework. And these are the 4 quizzes if you want to give them to Evan and the rest. Yeah. These are the quizzes.
Yeah, sure.
You guys know
I'm enjoying it. Was that too cold for you? Sure.
My name is Evan.
Sit on my cushion if you want.
Who's here? It's surprising. So while we're going outside and put first, Susanna, you want to be the first one?
No, I mean, I don't care, but. Yeah,
So the perfectionism is
He's gonna be the scratch.
No, no, está bien. Está bien. Okay.
So, okay. The first one was natural perfection of wisdom. Textual perfection.
Para que visualices. Imagínate, no un gran diseñador con eso vas a hacer vas a hacer algo para ganar dinero y ojalá
Natural, yeah, right?
entonces esa clase de
One of them is the only one.
terminando en diciembre. Como lo que hizo, lo hizo mal, hizo 3 meses. Y decidí, pero claramente, ¿no? Metas. ¿Cuánto quiero ganar? ¿Cuánto quiero enseñar o hacer? Que otra cosa. Y después, que hacer para llegar a esa meta en julio y quiero resolver esa y dividir las metas haciendo dinero. Maybe you lose money in the beginning, maybe you get to zero. But you make that plan, what you would like to do, and then try and figure out how you're going to get it. But it's possible. If it's just my for 1 year, I'd like to give you that's a plan. You want to make like your own mind find a sponsor for a project and work with some of your own. So it's an important project but the result is you have to invent a result protection plan. But you just got to figure out how you can handle this perfectly.
She said she was enlightened.
And this products you need it for the
Some people are referring to perfection. But you do, you're referring to any of those
They're divided into those 4 things. Customers, like who am I getting the money from? And who do I need in my resource branch to help me finish this? You can whatever, I don't know. Do a very final sketch. And I sent a bunch today. White or break something bad. Really, that's it. Meditation is good because meditation is bad because it's a good no.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's why the theme is meditation transformation.
So which is the actual
It's just meditation. And that's, like instantly. That's because they love I'm a better FaceTime you should have a structure and a plan or direction. I think if I tell people that now,
This is supposed to be what's yeah. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I actually looked at the weekend. We're probably going to try to celebrate but in general terms, because I don't know everybody you're going to have a lot of private one-on-one work.
Okay, so the two extremes of
The more structured you are, yeah, it's just about the links to the content. Yeah, sure. The way to plan things how people feel so if you're really stressing out, somebody stressing out, just 2 or 3 words. Well,
so the fourfold life. So you didn't know what I said.
No, it was after that. That's okay.
So first of all,
That was like it exists. Yeah. It was like it went basically through how things exist. Disputing that things exist a certain way. Things, it's not that things don't exist. I can't remember how it, but it was like 4 lines.
Everything exists
Yeah.
I want to hear that in your mind, memorize.
Everything and nothing.
It's not.
So one of the needs, one of the areas, any type of everything exists. Yeah, so they don't have to naturally, but it's not actually like one right that has a and then you can compare. So everything exists without existing naturally.
Things don't exist naturally, but it's not that they don't exist.
Good. Good. There's 2 sets. 1, 2 the way things are, and 2 the way things are not.
there can be no.
Well, I think this is the negative. I think this will probably be like nothing exists. But if nothing exists, the other one would probably be everything exists.
If they pursue this as a particular order, it would have to do with some other force yeah. They're going to get into that debate. So in terms of ACI, ACI power.
Alright, thank you. But it's not true, so it's not true. So not true.
I mean,
It was so close. We had the word everything.
we all agree.
You know, the convention. Convention, nominally. Everything is just fine.
Not there.
What did you say exactly? He used like a double measure. It sounded like everything
So.
which means comes outside.
Okay. Yeah, that's not kind of the whole plan. So that's
It's just,
Yeah.
If we're out there, then we want to find.
Yes, you.
I really do
Thank you. First of all, our class is so powerful. It's a really good
You get it? You okay? Yeah, I think
was so good.
Super happy with that. And then I realized I don't know. Yes, so someone received it really high. Setting up for just having at first I was like, taking care of my heart. Putting flowers,
I don't know.
they left me a card. You know what they do with it. One answer that you tell me.
Did you put this in?
It was behind you.
No, but they were there. Did someone move them?
Where would you like?
No, I didn't know whether they wanted to block cameras or stuff. They just floated by themselves.
That's like different.
Are we ready?
Really just change the shot.
We have to get someone there. Very good. Someone can cheat for you.
Anyone have homework?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Do you want to? You can close it all the way if you want. Yeah.
Okay, guys. If anybody is wondering where their homeworks went, I have them, and they're graded, and you can now collect them to study for your tests, which will
Next week.
be next week. And if you have them online, they are not corrected. Sorry, I couldn't correct the PDF. If they're on paper, they have been corrected. So if you want to get those back from me, see me at the class. And I am a dingus doodle, and I forgot to write down if you guys did the
meditations or not, which is also something I'd like to enter. So if you're going to collect your homework from me at that point, I will also check, oh, did you do your meditation? Yes, they did. Or, no, they didn't. So see you then after
Good.
class.
And
Thank
if
you.
anybody wants,
Oh, and if anybody wants a blank sheet for this week's homework, raise your hand now, please.
so you can do it on the spot and cheat.
Anybody else? It's your chance.
You did it. Sarah, finished? Good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get cracking. I'd like someone to try and tell me the Madhyamika Prasangika 4-part statement of two things that the way things are and the way they are not. Anyone? In your own words. Come on.
Nothing is everything. Everything is nothing.
Before looking, just try it. Okay, that's Emmett.
So nothing out there is on its own the way I think it is.
But
Things is naturally. That's not to say there's nothing out there.
good.
Everything is things are the way I think they are because I think they are that way. I have been like, oh, I'm gonna call this a pen.
But
I'm gonna say this person's this way. But that's but that doesn't mean that by thinking something is that way that I've made reality that thing.
close-ish. Close-ish. Okay, someone else give it a go. And try. Because I could find fault in when you say thinking that way. Yeah, that's okay. You can say it in the traditional way too, if you can have that language in you. Which, someone, come on. Just it's in the homework. What you just did in the quiz. The two ways things are, two way things are not.
Four parts.
Prasangika statement.
No, 4-part distinction.
So the second one is trying to say the way that things exist conventionally.
So yeah, say it all together.
The first one was it is naturally, right? Things don't exist naturally, but it's not to say that things don't exist.
Good.
And then things exist conventionally. Right? Through label.
Good.
Right?
Yeah.
But they don't exist
Naturally.
naturally. Oh, it is natural.
Yeah,
It's the
it
same
is.
one,
Yeah.
right?
That doesn't mean they exist naturally.
Yeah.
But they're doing that twice. Someone else do it again. You need to get this in your heads. And if you have this seed in your head, I don't care if you do any homework. No, I don't care. I care.
Things don't exist naturally.
Things don't exist naturally.
That doesn't mean that it exists at all.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd be
Things do
dumb.
exist
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they exist without nature.
Naturally. Yeah, that's okay. Good. Whatever you're conceiving when you're saying those words is what's important here, not the words. And I can't know what you're conceiving. You know what you're conceiving. Someone else. Read the statement. Actually, you want to read it? Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Nothing exists naturally, but not that nothing exists at all. Everything exists merely by name. In parentheses is like
Your mind going, there's a reality. Against your will.
I think I wrote this right, but everything exists without existing naturally.
Nice. That's the right way. One more. Someone else. Explain it. If you get this, this is it. That's what you get. And then we.
Objects don't exist, but they do function.
No, good. So I can have a drink.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, and you need to, please. Yeah, you need to struggle like that and put it in your own words. What's the first line, Sarah?
Nothing exists naturally.
Stop. Think about that. What does that mean? Nothing. And it really means nothing. It means absolutely everything, right? Nothing at all exists naturally. What does that mean?
By
Without
itself.
cause.
By itself, sort of, because there are things that do exist without cause.
Without someone perceiving.
Great. So nothing exists, we can say, out there the way you think it does, right? Naturally, like there's a computer over there, separate to me, naturally a computer. Every elephant that sees it will start typing. Every ant that walks over is trying to push the A to write ant. Yeah, because it's a computer. Naturally, it's a computer. Nothing exists like that. Having a nature's, yeah, what's the second one?
But not that nothing exists at all.
Even though that's a fact, that this is not a computer from its own side, yeah, it doesn't mean there's no computer, you idiot. Yeah, I add that just to remind myself, because that's where our minds go. Remember the two extremes? It'll go, oh, things either are the way they appear, and if Buddhism says no, they're empty of that nature. They don't exist that way. You're like, oh, they don't exist at all. There's no computer. We can't do the presentation today because this is not a computer naturally. Yeah. So that you need to conceive of things that way, and then substitute your foot for computer, your left arm for computer, your ear for computer, a relationship with, replace any other object with any other object, including inner objects. So they don't exist naturally. Nothing exists naturally. And our minds go, oh shit, nothing exists. And then you'll waste a whole lifetime telling people nothing exists and trying to auto-convince yourself that nothing exists as you're walking around many things that exist, trying to tell them they don't exist. Wrong. Yeah, it's a big misinterpretation that can waste your life. Don't do it. Nothing exists naturally. Our minds go, shit, disappeared. Everything disappeared. It didn't. It doesn't mean that things don't exist at all. Idiot. Yeah?
Everything exists merely by name.
This is the key. This is the highest of the four schools of interpreting the Buddhist discourse. In the highest way of thinking how things are, they are dependent on other things. Yeah? And there are many ways to look at that, but the highest way that things are dependent is that they are dependent on your consciousness naming them, so labeling them. This doesn't have a nature, but you know it's a computer. That's how it does exist. That's the real existence of this thing. Not because this has computer-ness, but because your mind just really experienced with all your sensory types a computer, whatever the hell that means. Yeah. It doesn't have computer from its own side. Prove it. Give it to my cat. It pees on it. It's a pee-pee pad. It's not a computer. Someone's wrong if I think it has a nature. It's either the cat that's dumb or I'm dumb. Because it is a computer, then punch cat. It is a pee-pee pad, punch Hector. Conflict comes from misunderstanding its reality. Its reality is not computer, but that does not mean there's no computer. Its reality is not pee-pee pad, but that does not mean there's no pee-pee pad at all. Things exist merely by convention, meaning experience, label. The mind of cat sees this object and its bladder is relaxing. And I know Stephen, not Evan. When Evan comes to,
Yes, just me tonight.
when Stephen comes home, even if it's 11 at night, and the computer or the pee-pee pad or the object is sitting there, he can't help himself. Like cats' bladders relax, Stephen's mind goes work for 3 joules until 1 in the morning. It's an object that gives him the experience of must be productive. This thing. we label name computer. Stephen looks at it and gets stressed out if he doesn't have it close. If he's not doing it. Even while we're trying to watch good Netflix shows, he'll interject with a little email. It's an object of productivity for Stephen. Yeah, it is so.
Only between that time though.
and like the cat's bladder relaxes, the Stephen mind wants to touch it. And the illusion is that this object is forcing me to do that. And it's not, it's your mind. It's a cat's consciousness saying, relax bladder, I need to pee on it. Or pay attention to me, or whatever the cat's conception is. So the third one is, it is.
Everything exists merely by name.
But it is by name PP pad or whatever that sounds like in cat language. There is a mental conception. Let's get to the point. There is a mental conception, an experiential thing for cat consciousness to look upon this thing and go, whatever that means. Lastly.
But everything exists without existing naturally.
Yeah. So this does exist, but it's not by itself PP pad or computer. It does exist. So it's trying to keep us away from those two extremes that we will drop out. And by dropping out, it means we're rotting our capacity to reach awakening. Either side of that cliff rots our capacity to label this very thing no longer normal, but enlightened. You still need to course it. Something made it computer for Stephen. Something made it PP pad for cat. That didn't come from nowhere. It definitely didn't come from that. It came from here. So then the big question is, who the hell is putting computers in here or PP pads in here? And that really is the game in Buddhism, wake-up-ism. Yeah? That is real the game. First, and emptiness just gives you the bounce back for your reality. Then you've got to go figure out reality. It's only the start. The understanding of emptiness is only the start. You get the wrong understanding of emptiness, you're not really starting a race. It's like the Monty Python race for people with no sense of direction. And so the gun goes off and everyone goes off at different places. Nobody's going to the finish line. If you misunderstand emptiness, when the gun goes off, you're not running down the runway.
How does this tie in with the experience of like undifferentiated being?
Explain what you mean by undifferentiated being.
In other words, like being in a state where everything sort of has this like universal essential nature, but it's undifferentiated in terms of concepts.
I'm going to leave that till next week, and because it needs some questioning, I need to know what exactly you mean. But this is exactly the same as this.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Insofar as they are both empty of a nature. They lack...
Or full of nature.
No, empty. They lack...
A shared nature.
The shared nature is that they have no nature. That's the only shared nature they have. The only nature they have is the one they don't have. And it sounds heady, but if you get the code, you'll get it. And when you get there, you see the 100-meter sprint.
But isn't emptiness the other side of the same coin of fullness?
Emptiness is the other side of karma, and that's why it needs debate. Yeah? Karma is the projection that forces me computer or PP pad. That's dependent origination. Karma, how things come to be. The fullness, computer, it's this object is full of computer. For the minds that have computerness in its projecting capacity. Not by choice, because PP pad for cats. It's projecting. So that's the fullness in your language. This is full of PP-ness, PP padness.
That's not right.
Yes. But that's what I'm saying. In this philosophy, that means. The only way this is full of anything, it's a functioning computer for those that have seeds for it to be computer. That's dependent origination. That's the way it is. It's not that things exist naturally. They exist merely by convention. That's how it's full. It's empty of being computer. It's full of being computer. It's empty of being computer by its own side without anybody looking at it. It doesn't have that nature. Humans look at it. It's full of computer-ness, but that doesn't mean it's still computer that way.
I wasn't talking about fullness in the sense of concept. I was talking about fullness in the sense of like energy.
Yeah, I know, and that's why it's worth discussing next week when we get together and have a debate. Okay. And that whole thing, because there's three main ways that we can incorporate that. Yeah. So to understand what the Buddha meant, it's not because, oh, Buddha's cool, let's figure out what he meant. It's because if you understand what he means, you then have a tool for experiencing reality that lets you shift and manipulate the way you're uncontrollably creating your universe, because it isn't coming this way. And if you figure out what that code is, you then all of a sudden have the capacity to shift. You thought you were getting happy by working on the computer. Well, cats were getting happy by being on the computer. Which one's the right way? If your way is right, then you must force the cat to work on the computer and you'll be very happy. Or if the cat is right, you must pee on this computer for you to be as happy as a cat. Because one way's got to be right. Anyway, we digress. Let's start the class. Otherwise, I'll never finish. I've got less than an hour to do it. Yeah. Lots of implications. Like I told you at the beginning of this course, this is just one out of 18 courses, and the concepts build upon each other. They are individually understandable, but as soon as you understand one, it knocks on 3 or 4 different implications, and there's a way to look at those implications that have been tried and tested and debated for 2,500 years. And frankly, I don't give a rat's about the debates. I don't give a rat's. I just want to know, can my mind logically get there quickly if the promise of this sutra is true? If it's true that what the Buddha said, that you could transcend all of suffering, including aging and death, the self, idea of a broken self, a samsaric self, if that's true, then I just want that recipe, thank you very much. And so I'm just getting the ingredients, and everyone's debating in the scriptures what this ingredient really means. Don't get that silvery ingredient that's mercury, get this ingredient, which is something else. But they're saying, get the silvery ingredient. And then Buddhists throughout time have been debating, what's that silvery ingredient? And some have tried the recipe this way and not gotten anywhere. And others have gotten the recipe this way and gotten somewhere. And then they left you little notes called sutras, commentaries, and the rest. And so I frankly don't really care too much about all the different debates that come from the Buddhist canon about how to interpret this and that, until they logically let my mind see the code that they're describing, so I can make the recipe. Buddhists, as well as any other ists, we love getting lost in collecting recipes that we'll never cook. You know, like I would like to connect all my baking recipes for enlightenment, and I have a nice collection from the 1600s and the 900s, and I can tell you the difference between the recipe from this time, because, you know, they didn't have flour like we have flour nowadays. Who gives a rat's? Let's make cake, yeah? Or whatever the thing is. And this is really it's so hard to get your mind there, because we will get hypnotized by the recipes. You know, go, oh, that's Nagarjuna said this. Did you know that? Good, thank you, Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna is also your projection. At this point, well, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, find the real code in the real recipe. Yeah, then you can make enlightenment cake. Someone read it out loud. Who has a beautiful voice? Let's see who says me. Someone read, even if you don't have a beautiful voice, someone. Yay.
Causes are empty. Buddha. It is thus any living beings who receive an explanation of this sutra, and who are not made afraid, and are not frightened, and who do not become frightened, are truly wondrous.
Stop there for a second. So when it is not made, don't become, is talking about causation according to the commentary by which Lama? Johnny Lama. Cool. And this is the commentary. Can you read the red? Is that visible?
The red.
Yeah.
Oh, it just looks like black, but
Oh.
yeah.
Oh,
The black that was red.
commentary.
Yeah.
If things did exist in a true way, then it would be improper to say that they ever changed. And then it would be improper, it would never be right, to describe all the workings of things like karma and its consequences. The way in which all things work, and nirvana itself, and everything else are all quite proper. And none of these objects has any true existence. None of them has any nature of their own.
What's he saying here?
He's always been saying.
What he's always been saying, but now he's always been saying it about different objects of attention,
Now
right?
he's saying nirvana is the same.
He's also saying
The practice.
the practice. He's saying the thing that causes another thing, karma itself, is empty of a nature. That's why it works, because it doesn't work the way you think it does. And that is the defining difficult point between the main schools of Buddhist thought. Any school below the Prasangika, the Madhyamika Prasangika, and I'll show you a little boring chart later, so you can look at recipes from the 1600s. Yeah. Will say what we've been studying here for the last 23 years. The main thing we teach at Three Jewels, what the Dalai Lama teaches, what the Buddha taught, what Nagarjuna taught, what Chandrakirti taught, what Tsongkhapa taught, is that things are what they are for you because they are empty of a nature and your mind is forcing that projection. We understood that in the explanation, right? That if you understood that at whatever level, you've understood the highest. There's no higher way of looking at reality. There's no bigger umbrella to encompass all than things don't have a nature. Nothing has any quality at all except the quality that you are forced to experience in it. And in that relationship, perceiver and perceived create reality. Yeah, and it's not like you're fabricating reality out there. Even the conception of this reality is formed in your mind and projected on sounds and words and concepts, and you're forming something that also doesn't have a nature. So he's getting a little meta by saying the way this works also doesn't work. That's why it works. And this is trippy because it trips up nearly all of the other Buddhist schools who are going to argue, we're going to argue for them to try and argue back. That's because our minds go there, not because it's interesting recipes. So I'll give you a quick summary of what we've been sharing. And most of you know these things. It says, we say things are empty. All things are empty. Remember, I started that way. Nothing at all has a nature from its own side. They're empty. Therefore, they are dependent on our projection. We buy that when I tell you that for objects like the pen. We've done the pen thing trillion times in here, right? So when I say, what is that? You say it's a wrong. It's a projected image of a pen. No, it's a pen. Yeah, pen. It's a metaphor of a metaphor. No, it's a pen. Okay, let's do the picture. When I say, what's that? You say a pen. Is it using those 4 stories, right? Is that a pen? Assuming
Not naturally.
Not naturally. But does that mean it's not a pen? No, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist at all. How is it a pen? By my name, by projections. But it doesn't exist without my projection. There wouldn't be pen without mind calling it pen. That's all. You did it. Yeah? Okay, let's go home. No. But we've done that over and over and over at Three Jewels. And that's the main school. That's the high school. Projections is dependent origination. There's a whole bunch of other dependent originations I don't frankly want to go into.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
So we keep using the dog example because for dog, that's not a pen. That's a chew toy. So let's go for the dog's perspective. Is that a chew toy? Hmm?
Not naturally.
Not naturally a chew toy. Is there no chew toy?
No.
No. How is it a chew toy? Yeah, or feels chew toy, or whatever we say. Yeah. Chew toy. But
Not existing without it existing
Yeah.
naturally.
good. You got it? So we've done that. You've got that as a foundation. And Paulie, Geshe, and Michael Roach, who came up with with a cool pen thing in 93, 94, I think. He started using this metaphor. He's never stopped. He only teaches that metaphor. And it is the essence of waking up. You wouldn't think that a simplistic, clean description of a stupid pen could get you enlightened. But if you get what we just did, it could break open infinite possibilities for real. And no, sorry. So we also, in these courses, have gone down the rabbit hole of, okay, what about the parts of the pen? Isn't there some stuff behind the pen? Isn't there cylinders? And the answer is, for the educated few that understand those 4 lines, are there cylinders?
Yeah.
Not naturally a cylinder. How are there cylinders? Good. And then in previous courses, we also said the same for inner states like anger. Are we there? Yeah. She's fake angry, but you get it, right? What's her name?
Selena.
Selena? Yeah. You have this kind of heat and heartbeat going, and you label it anger, right? And usually we say, you did it. You made me angry. You computed me, computer. You bladdered me. You made me angry. So, upon heat and heartbeat, just to give you some words, is there anger? Let's use the 4. Not naturally, but yes, by conventional labeling and so on. Upon the experience, we're like, angry. That's the only anger that exists. Could she have made me angry? No. And we've, sorry, we've got so much to go. And I'll get us there. If I don't get it there, yeah. So we've done that in these courses for years now. Okay, I'm just giving you a summary because I thought it would be unfair to drop you into this new karma. And it's also for the parts of the mind and mind itself. Depression, sadness, gloominess. My mind's always like this. I'm always depressed. It's so dark in here. Feel moody. Conception upon sensation, mental movements that make me believe that that's what I am. Put up your hand if you've ever been sad. Okay. Keep your hand up if you've also been happy. Do that. Yay! Okay. So your mind is neither this or that, moment to moment. How can it be? If you're depressed, then you should always be depressed. Right? If you're happy, you should always be happy. No. Mind is doing this. Which are you? Which one are you? Are you really depressed? Not naturally. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah? So then the question in the sutra now is like, what about causality? Can things make other things do things? We think so, because we're using that system to make things happen. I want to make samsara break and enlightenment come. Or I want to make more money, so I'm going to give people money to plant the karmas, the seeds in my mind that will project onto otherwise empty objects abundance. Give money, receive money. Give happiness, receive happiness. That's how they exist according to this system. But what about the system? Does it exist naturally? And this hurts, okay? This will hurt. your head, because your mind won't want to go there. So then we have to ask the question, which is question 1 on your homework, Tyler. Why do things change? And then I'm just going to go. Actually, I'm going to invite you to tell me, not if you've studied it, if you haven't studied it, using what we've just explained. Things are blank. They don't carry that nature. The nature comes from something in our mind. We don't call it on purpose, right? It just comes, yeah? Because it's somewhere in there. We call that mind, yeah? And I gave you a clue. The way we put that in there is by our actions are recorded in our consciousness. What we do to others in our world creates the seeds, if you will, that project into our realities later, because things are empty. So where the hell it's coming from is what we do to others. Have you ever been angry? Yeah. It's because have you ever experienced anyone being angry at you? Yes. Why? Because you were angry at others. How do you recognize anger if you haven't been angry? At a very simplistic level. It's deeper than that. Story. So, talk about how things actually can change, how a seed can become a tree, how putting ideas in your mind can become knowledge. How do things change? And try and explain it with those 4 things. Someone try. And then I'm going to show it to you. But
They only appear to change for their true nature, but then they don't have a true nature at all.
no, but it's cool. You got there, right? They appear to change. Do they change naturally? Using those 4 things? No, but does that mean they don't change?
No.
How do they change?
Because you change your thinking.
Got it? Woo. Okay, so there's this thing similar to the 4 lines of the saying, Chunam Tong Kang Judge Topa. Basically, they say even though objects are empty, and object means everything, including mental objects and emotional objects, even though they're empty, they still work. But a better way of saying it is, and because things are empty, they work. If they weren't empty, if this was by itself computer, it would never change to not computer, or less computer, or more computer. If this was pee-pee pad, it could not be computer. If it was radiating out computer-ness, it could never, ever, ever be pee-pee pad-ness. If a thing was a thing by itself, then it could never be anything other than that thing. You get it? And that contradicts the way we walk around the world. My job gives me money. My boyfriend gives me happiness. My Evan gives me happiness. Evan, miss you. I know, and again. He let me last time. We're good.
My name's Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
So for example, let's get something that works like medicine. Medicine always works, right? Every time you take aspirin, your headache goes away. Every time. No, it does. It must. Why would you go to the chemist? Sorry, pharmacy. If it wasn't going to work, you're stupid. You're giving money away. Medicine always works. That's why we go to medicine. No? Correct. It doesn't. Duh. In this system, why does medicine work sometimes and not other times? If the active ingredient in medicine is an active ingredient that removes headaches or whatever it does, then headache gone. But that's not true. Maybe there's 10% of the jar that doesn't remove headache. You spit them out, return them. You go to the chemist and go, excuse me.
Faulty.
It's
faulty.
It's faulty. Sorry, this is faulty. Plus I've got a headache. Can you get Now, I know it sounds ridiculous, and I am being silly, right? Because it's a complex set of things. But if it really did have an active ingredient that was radiating whatever the result of the medicine is, it must always work. Something else is at play. Now, using those 4 things, does medicine always work?
No.
Does it have the nature of making things work? It doesn't naturally. And here is the problem, because as soon as I said that, you're all like, no, medicine doesn't work. But it's not that it doesn't exist at all. Of course it cures headaches. Sometimes. And as soon as you say sometimes, and not all of the time, it's not making the headache go away. Something else did it. If it was the cause of removing headache, every time, cause means cause and effect. Every time it must remove headache. The fact that it didn't proves that it doesn't remove headaches without your projection of it removing headache. Does that make sense? Does it remove headaches? Not naturally. Good answer. Good answer. Not naturally. Does it remove headaches though?
Yes.
By convention. Excellent. And you start thinking that way about your world, and you are now ready to go in the race of people without a sense of direction, and you know you're somehow heading right. Yeah? Everyone else is like, karma emptiness, practice meditation, be compassionate, do nice things for people, yoga. And they're just running all sorts of places. But if you can say that, you still have to force that, because it doesn't come naturally. You have to force that convention, and at least you're heading forward. Mm-hmm.
The only question I have about that is
The only one.
like, there are some things that seem like they're not big, like gravity, right? So like gravity.
We'll get to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Does gravity exist?
No.
Not naturally. Does it exist?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's easy to answer, but like, this is the same result, right? Like, that's not something with a choice about.
Good call. Yeah, good. Let's talk about investments. Let's make money together. Yeah, let's talk about risky investments. They always make money, right? If you take a high risk, you're going to make a high gain. Is that right?
Yes.
100% of the time. Same as medicine, okay? Same risky investment. Someone makes money, someone doesn't make money. Is the investment the cause of the making or not making money? It can't be. What's needed? A mind that is forced to perceive making money. The karmas to experience money as the result of that investment. So to answer it like Emmett did, does high risk investment produce high yield?
Not natural.
Not naturally. Does it mean it doesn't at all? No. What's it need? Just the right tech company? Just the right employees? Just the right time of year? It does need all of those things, only if those things are the ones being projected as the thing producing the result. You need the right mental constructs that are forced upon the otherwise empty, risky investment to produce the result. If you get that, good then. There's this school called the Madhyamika Svatantrika. It's a middle way school that gets stuck at the idea that things that function are empty. So they produce this metaphor called the two deceptive realities. And they call the right way that things appear and the wrong things that things appear. And they give us an example in this debate. If you imagine driving down the road and on one side you see a lake and on the other side you see a mirage. They both appear the same way, right? They're deceptive realities. One is a real lake. The other one is a mirage, right? One functions like a real lake, meaning you could drown. The other one, not going to drown. Yeah? So they say, wait, what about the right way of seeing things and the wrong way of seeing things? And that they need to hold on to this idea that it's coming from the object. There's something saying mirageness or lakeness, and we call them 50-50. Yes, it still needs your conception, your karma, to label it lake or mirage. Thank you. But there's a right deceptive reality and a wrong deceptive reality. This one functions. This one is really a lake. This one's not really a lake. Right? So this one has lakeness to it. That one's a problem. Fair? And then the Madhyamika Prasangika, the highest school, the one that we've been using those 4 things, say you're stupid.
Then there's also the thing about
Yeah. So you're stupid. They're both wrong. When looked upon, like we've just been describing, things are empty of a nature and they are dependent on your projections. In that way of looking at the world, they're both stupid. Yeah, one functions, the other one also functions as a mirage. This one functions as a lake. That's how reality actually exists. Your projections are forcing you to see this shimmering something as mirage from your projections, not from mirageness. And this one is seeing the shimmery blah, blah, blah as lake from your projections. And it functions. That's also coming from you. There's nothing in it. Stop thinking you're ever going to find anything in there. It's an infinite regression. And the more you look, the more you come up empty. Thank you. Woo. So then your minds, like mine, go, but there must be something, right? There must be something that has a nature. What about the result? What about gravity, Abby said? Yeah? That's a grave problem. Did you get that, Joe? Gravity. What about things that work, that function? Like, instead of gravity, let's do the sun. Yeah, rising and like day happens to all of us, doesn't it?
Less and less these days.
Huh? Less and less these days.
not for someone locked up in a windowless cell. Not for someone locked up in a windowless cell.
Yeah, no, someone looked up in a windowless cell. But that doesn't mean the sun is not coming up.
If you're born on a planet that revolves around the sun every 6 days, one day you're gonna.
Yeah, but Abby's saying, yeah, but I'm not.
not.
I'm here. Abby's saying there's gravity here. There's a sun here. Don't tell me that the sun doesn't come up. That would be like totally anti-Buddhist. Does the sun come up?
Yes.
Not naturally.
Say it. Say it.
No.
How does it come up? Because you perceive it, but I perceive it too, so it must really come up. See, that's our argument. We're like, 6 of us see it coming up, must be coming up. The poor bastard in the cell didn't see it come up. He's stupid. Pee-pee pad, stupid.
That's the convention.
Correct. That's the convention. Good. By labeling, sun came up. They don't have that. What if they died? Sorry, your person died in the cave. What if they died not having seen the sun come up for 6 months? Did they see the sun come up? Did the sun come up for them?
No.
So did the sun come up?
You don't know.
I want to try with gravity.
Let's not try with gravity because I've got so many other things. But it's just as important. There is a time where this sun won't come up, where this planet is burnt up. What about that time? Did the sun come up? It won't be you observing it, but did the sun come up then? What about when the sun blows up? Will the sun come up then? That's in your timeline, in your gravity world. Right? In that kind of world, is there sun coming up? Only for the beings experiencing it that way. And so how do we answer these things? For me as a corporate change manager, I go into organizations all the time and I see groups of people gathering around an idea like the sun's coming up. But in the business world, it's like the boss sucks. And so these people go, yeah, we hate him or her. And they all get together and say, the sun comes. I mean, the boss, I hate the boss. He's an asshole. And then these people are like, I'm going to get a promotion. The boss is awesome. And then those people are like, I can't wait. And now the people are, I'm bored. Yeah, there's groups of people, at least 3, hate the boss, like the boss, neutral about the boss. And if I grabbed those people and they group together to try and auto-convince each other, it's actually called politics or impeachment. Yeah, they get together trying to convince each other that my way of seeing the sun come up is true. It's not a PP pad, it's a computer. So punch you, hurt you. And what they're not realizing, this is a great tragedy. If what we're saying is true, that we're projecting reality, then as I punch those that disagree with me because they disagree with me, I've just recorded aggression, punching, hurting, disagreement in my beautiful recorder from which my projections come, and then I must see exactly what I've painted. You don't agree with me, cat? Stupid cat, fling it out low because it didn't understand computers are computers. That harm that I placed on that being was recorded in my mind. I witnessed the hurt upon a living being, unaware that I'm about to get the same but bigger. Small cause, big result. Tiny seed, big tree. Things grow in you too. And that's the whole study of karma. That's 10 weeks doing that. So the theory is, of course, we share in the sun rising. Why is it inconsistent that all of us have similar projections? That's the same as the PP pad or computer. Just because all humans agree it's a computer does not force a cat to see it as computer. Never will. And even if there were trillion more cats than humans, more minds conceiving of this as PP pad, it would still not compel one of you to pee on it. Certainly not Evan. Yeah. Okay. So then the question is, well, what about the fact of karma itself? This recording that's happening in our minds, projecting it. Isn't that something that does? Isn't that have a nature? Because that makes everything work. And then there's a school called the Mind Only School. Mind Only School that says, in order to get around the idea that these karmas must be placed somewhere, it's called subjective function, they created a second consciousness called the Laya Vijnana, Mind Only School, the storehouse consciousness or the basis consciousness, your punchi, where what goes in your punchis? The dunchis go in your punchis. That's another course. And so they have to create this little separate corner of your mind to collect all the imprints so they can function, because they can't handle the idea that the nature of projections are also empty. And I'll give you an example. So in the Sutra, we talked about the self, a person, a life, and a being, a living being, yeah? And those things are my conception of Hector before he walked in here is the same Hector that is talking now, right? Like you have the same conception about you. Whoever walked in here, Sam, is the same Sam that was here before, right? That Sam is this Sam. So we have this continued. That course, this Sam. The Sam you fed this morning is this Sam. Yeah, that's the person, that's the self, that's what we think we are. And over a lifetime, we think we're that. The baby Sam pictures is this Sam. And the old lady Sam, if you're lucky, will be this same Sam. Same Sam. Describe the 4 upon that Sam. That cause and effect, moment to moment. Sam, 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 Sam. Is it the same thing? Last year Sam and this year Sam. Is it the same?
No.
What's different about it?
It's probably experienced something.
It's the same Sam. It's the same Sam.
She's probably experienced something.
She's got new experiences. Yeah. probably new traumas, yeah, from the meditation teacher training. What about physically? Same hair?
No.
Same nails? Same liver?
No.
Right? You know that's not okay. What about 2 years ago, Sam? 5 years ago, Sam? 10 years ago, Sam? And yet, it is Sam. It is a nominal Sam, right? How is she a Sam? By convention, by name. The last minute Sam, I remember that Sam. I look upon this Sam, project upon that object Sam. In that way, she's Sam. But I'm not doing it consciously. And you're doing it about yourself from moment to moment. Yesterday's Hector was on keto. Today's Hector is having a blood, what do you call it? A sugar low. It's about to pass out because he hasn't had food since lunch. Right? I just realized I'm like, oh, Eddie. But it's the same Hector. It's the one that was on a diet, now doesn't know what diet to be on, so he's freaking. The conception of a mind upon itself, that continuum, that causality, is the same as karma. Karma is over millisecond by millisecond, creating a continuum of me as a person. So it still functions if we just don't think of it that way. And if we did, we'd be able to run that race, a 100-meter race, not like without a sense of direction. So then lastly, because we keep edging on the cliff of non-existence when things are empty, we say, well, if things are empty, then things don't really matter. If everything is empty, and even the cause of causing things are empty, then I can do the hell I want. And there's people that misinterpret that specifically for tantric practices, Vajrayana practices, more advanced practices that are esoteric and really get you to the very edge of that middle way, just to bring you back to the other side, just so you can see your landscape. And people misinterpret that by saying, I'm a tantric practitioner, I can do the hell I want, I can harm people, there's no consequences to what I do, because emptiness is true about karma too. Karma is empty, there's no consequence. There was a debate 720 AD in the court of Tibet between Huashan and Kamalashila. Both Kamalashila did a commentary on the Dharmakala Sutra. And in that debate, the assertion was from the Huashan camp that once you're an advanced practitioner, anything goes. And Master Kamalashila used his 1994 computer to say no. And so the answer is because all objects in the world are empty, like empty screens, what we see on them is completely, totally, 100% dependent on the projections that come from your mind. Not because you wanted to, but because you put them there before. And because of that, then you must be good. You must be ethical. You must be kind. You must do to the world the very things you want your world to turn into. Hurting a single living being created an imprint of hurt. Keeping someone in the dark created you in the dark. Being stingy towards someone created lack of abundance for you. Being generous to someone if that's the thing that makes medicine work, taking care of another being's body will make those little pills work for you. Being careful to care for another person's living parts creates the imprint in your mind that force you to perceive headache gone. And not caring about the state of mind of another generates depression. Do you see the link? Because things don't have a nature, whatever you're intending, recording as you're doing, speech and mind, You're always aware. They're always going in there. There's 65 finger snap. The projector is being loaded. You know exactly what you're doing, whether you're in public, whether you're in private. Your mind is reading out a little story. I hate her. She's such a pain in the ass. Hi, how are you? It's nice to see you. I hate her. She's such a pain in the ass. Doesn't matter what words I say. My mind is reading the words I say and the intention. And those are now collected in me. Lovely in me. Yeah? Maybe she could read my sarcasm. Maybe she could not. That's up to her mind to label that whole reality. But my mind, I'm labeling it bullshit. I'm saying nice things, meaning bad things. Those two are now in my mind. 3 months go past, 4 months, a year. I meet someone, they go, Hector, it's so nice to meet you. I'm like, he hates me. Where did that come from? It couldn't have come from, hey, Hector, nice to see you. It couldn't have come from that. Why did my mind instantly say he hates me? I've just been doing that to everyone. Saying one thing, meaning another. And if you understand that, then you realize that every single enemy you've ever fought with, every person you disliked and did something mean in your mind or in your words, first of all, it's coming back to bite you. And secondly, they were ghosts. They didn't exist. The people you were trying to hurt. They were your echoes of what you've done to others in the past, the way you see anyone. You see someone as annoying, you were annoying. Hurting them or making them fight with you just creates problems on top of annoying. If you understand this, you see the unnecessariness of war. Every tiny harm you mean towards someone else, you're fighting ghosts. They don't exist that way. They are your projections. And you don't like your projections. You don't like it's like a hall of mirrors and some haunted bloody show. And you see the scary boss and you don't realize you created the scary boss. So you fight with the boss, which makes more scary boss. You punch the cat because they beat on your thing because you didn't take care of other people's technology or whatever the story is. Light produces light, infallible. So every harm you've done it towards a thing that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a person out there separate from your projections that could ever hurt you. Do they hurt you? Yes. Do they exist as hurting you? No, not by itself, not separate from our projections. And if you get that, then you get the Diamond Color Sutra. And so I need to tell you this part, which is sort of an add-on. It's not part of your homeworks or anything. Do you remember the 3 ways we split reality in a previous course? It's 3. Nongyo, do you remember that? Kokyo and Shinto Kokyo. Cool. So there's evident reality. You see directly through your senses, right? You see colors and shapes. You don't need anyone to tell you that. There's colors and shapes over here. Yeah. Then there's hidden reality. Yeah, so for example, this is direct. You have a direct experience of this object, right? That's direct. You're seeing it with your eyeballs. That's the first, evident reality. Yeah, you see black square. You're labeling it phone, but you really only see black square or rectangle. Yeah? Then there's another way of experiencing reality, which we do all the time, and it's hidden, it's subtle. And we do that not directly, but we do that with logic and reasoning that is lightning fast. What do I have in my hand? Square. Yeah. But a phone is good. It is a phone, but not by itself. Yeah. What? Old man syndrome. Look. Not you. Not you. What do I have in my hand? How do you know? Yeah, but how do you know it was back there? You don't have a number. You can't see it. I showed it to you a millisecond ago, but you can't see it now, Red. How do you know I have fun?
Because there's deducting.
Duh, yeah, obviously. Yeah. Deductive reasoning told you there's a fun. And that's right in a nominal world. No problem. That works. Of course it's a fun. Yes, you have a back, even though you can't see it. Fifth Avenue is still over there. Didn't disappear because you're not looking at it. Okay? There is a Fifth Avenue. And so we arrive at these realities through thinking, deductive reasoning. We do it like that about so many things. And some things it takes some stretch to get deductive reasoning. And we've deduced the emptiness of objects. We've covered that today. Intellectually, you've done deductive reasoning that this doesn't have a nature from itself. Or this, sorry, we did that, right? This doesn't have a nature. This is not computer. That's why it's computer, for those that have a projection. Then you understand the sutra, right? We understood that. It has no nature. But deductive reasoning lets you understand that. Its real nature is no nature. That's why it is computer, dependent on my labeling, on my naming. Yeah? We're good so far? Good? And then there's Shintukokyu. Let's say it like that. Shintukokyu. Which is things sort of beyond the reach of our current capacity. And the best way I can tell you this is when you get really sick, like really, really sick, and your general doctor can't help you, you go to a specialist, an oncologist or whatever it is, and they tell you, I've seen 100 of these, this is precisely what you've got, and it's because of this. And they show you colored graphs with shapes, and you're like, ooh, the liver. You don't know what the bloody liver looks like on those graphs or the numbers, but you trust them because they're specialists. You've developed some trust with them. And so this very subtle reality that in the Buddhist world, they say, the Buddha said, don't trust anything I say. You must cut it, burn it, rub it, melt it. Yeah, just like gold. You put these ideas in your head and try and break them. In the trying to break them, you'll come to a conclusion. But I have to tell you that for the karma part of this, the emptiness, you've done it already. You've deduced things don't have a nature. It's difficult from objects to causality, but we've done it. But then how those karmas actually function, it's Shintukokyu. It's very, very subtle. The subtle workings of karma. And for that, I advise you, trust the literature. Do an experiment and say, if what I say is true, that the only way you're going to get a headache pill to work is to try and take care of other people's illnesses, and then your medicine will work. But that's just the vehicle for your karma. Then try that experiment enough times for you to go, oh, I see. My actions in the world have consequences to my world. Against computers, not PP pads. As medicine that works, not medicine that doesn't work. As people being generous and offering me abundance, and I've just been being kind for 10 years to other people. And all of a sudden, everyone's kind around me. Where did that happen? It's a race. It takes a long time. But you need to experiment with that. So for the workings of karma, I'm going to say at least follow the 10 virtues. Avoid the 10 non-virtues. That's a nice general description of don't kill living things if you don't want to get sick. Take care of living things if you want to be healthy. Covet other people's partners if you want to have nice committed relationships. Yeah? Don't start checking people out with dribble in the subway if you want to keep your boyfriend.
Conclusion. Subhuti is on the one hand, someone gave away in charity the 7 treasures in quantity sufficient to fill all the worlds in uncountable aeons. And if on the other hand a virtuous man or woman developed the Bodhi mind and received, retained, read, and recited even a 4-line stanza of the Sutra and expounded it to others, the latter's merit would surpass that of the former. In what manner should it be taught to others? By teaching it without attachment to form, with the immutability of the Absolute. Why is this? Because all phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble and a shadow, like dew and lightning. Thus should you contemplate them. When the Buddha had finished expounding the sutra, the elder Subhuti, together with the bhikshus, bhikshunis, upasakas, and all the worlds of devas and asuras who had listened to his teaching, were filled with joy and believed, received, and observed it.
That's the end of the sutra from a chant. But I want to quickly talk about these 4 lines. When they say, if you just remember just 4 lines of this sutra, the tradition is that you remember these 4 and you understand what the metaphors mean. So can someone read it? Lala?
See anything brought about by causes as like a star, an obstruction of the eye, a lamp, an illusion, the dew or a bubble, a dream or lightning, or else a cloud.
So then there's some traditional way of describing them, but essentially they all say anything brought about by causes, anything changing that brought about something else that's changing, anything produced must necessarily disappear if you don't understand where it comes from. Because it's this misunderstanding that brings them into being in a broken way. Understanding makes them be the way they are. You understand how they really are, empty of a nature. And therefore, as you're taking actions to produce them, you can maintain them, they say, like fusion in an upward spiral that's not diminishing. And so the star, the metaphor of the star is, they say, stars look magic at night. They're vibrant, they're real, they're like full-on suns up in the sky. And we experience reality like that, vivid, bright, sharp. But as soon as the sun comes up, they disappear completely, as if they were never there. And it's the same for anything brought about by causes. They seem so solid, this life of ours, these relationships we have, these understandings we have, these conceptions about ourselves that we have. They're like a star. As soon as you see it for what it is, the sun of insight, wisdom dispels that glittering thing. It doesn't mean they disappear completely, but they're not what you thought they were. And the same for an obstruction of the eye. If you had something in your eye and you looked at everything through I don't know, is it jaundice that you get yellow eye? Huh? Or cataracts, we can use cataracts. Then you think that shape existed in everything around you. That's all you could see was this obstruction of the eye. The reality we live in is like that. We think things are not PP pads, but computers. We think things have a nature of their own. And so we're forever fighting phantoms, trying to get what we want and avoid what we don't want, not realizing the real cause. Those things, fleeting, they're like an illusion, like seeing something in front of you all the time. Remove that and you will see clearly. The next one is a lamp. I remember the lamp one.
Is it like the oil burning out or something?
I got a note. Let me see. the flame of a butter lamp supported by a thin plant wick flares and then quickly dies out. Course things, each supported by the various course and conditions that brought them to be, like a wick brought about a flame. The same, diminish and die quickly, just like a lamp. And then an illusion, what's the nature of an illusion? It appears one way, but it really is another. Same metaphor. Dew disappears like that on the sunshine, rising. Same. Your complete lives, your entire lives, the life of a self, a living being, a person, or a life. The continuum as a me today, me throughout the course of my day, me reincarnating over and over. Those conceptions also, like a dew, like that, disappear in a minute. Do you remember what it was like to go to your first school day? Do you remember what it was like to meet your first partner? Those things just gone. You think your life is going to be different. And until you figure out what it is that's causing every bliss and causing every problem, we're stuck in that whirlpool forever. But you don't have to be. The code of this thing is that if you get to the nature of things, that's why the whole thing, we're saying things are not the way they appear. That's why they are, because they're not. It's telling you your world and nirvana, enlightenment, everything is possible because this doesn't have to be this way. This is forced upon you by your projections. You just don't remember creating them. And so you're stuck in this hologram that is real. It's not real. But don't fall off the cliff just because it's a projection. And so they're trying to keep you understanding the real nature, the real code of what it is that's producing every experience. So you can generate the ones you want, diminish the ones you don't want. And eventually you'll get to a place where you can only have the ones you really want because you understand them, not because you've got some attachment to them. Like a dream, when in a dream you think it's a reality until you wake up and then you're like, oh, that was a dream. Same as this experience we're having. Or a cloud. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. You have finally reached the end of the sutra. There is one more meditation contemplation that if you dare to do, I invite you to try to contemplate it. I was trying to do it coming here and looking at the train moving and any moving thing, any course thing, any functioning thing. I was trying to look for its emptiness. What is it that makes me think the train is moving? And I invite you to do this a lot, and then you'll notice what's happening. There's your homework and quiz download. There's your homework and quiz download. And let's do one final prayer. And then next week, we get to debate, ask questions, break concepts, and then maybe do the download. Here we go.
Sashi
Uhir Tushiyan Metodram Rira Minshiyan Yanderdapadi Sangha Shindu Mitedvargi Drokun Anda Shinla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratnam Andaratam Nirantayami
Deva
Idam Sram Yashe Satsokshin Sram Yashe Jume Dambar Kunito Parsho.
Thank you so much for placing your minds on this for the last 2 hours or 10 weeks. It's not easy. It's against the grain. It really is.